Week 18 kicks off tomorrow, which means playoff best ball is almost here and seeding is just about locked up. So today we're going to draft some best ball teams, myself and Bernie, aka B Kirt, and see how we can get a little funky, a little bit different. We've all drafted the same teams over and over and over. We know who we like, but how do we take a little bit of an off the beaten path strategy to maybe take down one of these huge playoff best ball tournaments on Underdog, DraftKings, and Drafters? Let's do it. All right, Bernie, we've been drafting way too many playoff best ball teams. I believe you said, is this your first year you're able to play overall playoff best ball, or is it just on Underdog, or you got to remind me?
So it's my first year. I don't have to travel to play Underdog
okay.
playoff. So that's kind of nice. Before I have been driving to Indiana to do it, and I've actually made the finals doing that. So now that I can do it from my couch, hopefully we keep the same process and the same results.
Yeah, it's bad karma, I think, to change your draft location when you had a really good season the year before. But I guess we'll see. You're putting that to the test. Your Lions are putting us to the test, I think, with upcoming. Everybody, I think, is pretty much aware by this point, but there's a couple different games this weekend that matter, but the most notable one, I think, for playoff best ball is, of course, Sunday Night Football with the Lions and the Vikings, the winner getting the bye. And that will, if the Vikings do in fact win, that will shake up all the drafts that have happened up until this point. Obviously, maybe more recently, people have been drafting with the thought that the Vikings could get the bye, but the contests that are closed, nobody was drafting with that thought. And even if they don't get the bye, I don't think people were drafting with the idea that the Vikings were like a real contender until the last maybe 2 weeks or something like that. So this is another thing that I'm keeping in mind. Among many things I got wrong, one of the few things I've gotten right up until this point was being really heavy on the Vikings. So it would be just hilarious if all my solo Sam Darnold teams and my Vikings teams just died when that felt really good. But is there anything else this weekend that you're specifically kind of looking at, thinking about, or whatever before we start to dive into some of these drafts?
So this weekend specifically, I'm very excited for Saturday to happen. I can't wait for Cincinnati to win on Saturday night. Only for the Broncos to then come through and win on Sunday, and then all those people that jam Cincinnati stacks just die.
Yep.
That's going to be pretty exciting. I will not be drafting. This is a question I had for you, is if you were drafting any Cincinnati. I am personally not, and I won't entertain it until they actually get the 7th seed.
It's a great, somebody was posing that question. I forget who it was yesterday in the Discord, which of course there's a link to our free best ball Discord in the description here. You can come hang out. We're talking around the clock. We have been talking nonstop this morning, some playoff best ball, a little fun Lamar and Josh Allen conversation, but Cincy to me, and these are just how I play it. I never try to make it seem like this is right. This is the right way to play it, and this is the wrong way to play it. Because if you're totally willing to set that money on fire for 1 week of a slightly reduced price on these Bengals, that's totally fine. To each their own. I don't feel the need to do that. I don't feel like the gains are so big. I don't think if the Bengals, even if the Bengals get in, right, it's Monday and the Bengals are in, miracle happened. They're like 6%, I believe, to make 5 or 6% to make the playoffs. If that happens, they're going to go up in price, but in order for them to go up, other people have to go down. And the Broncos, who would essentially be the team that gets knocked out, they're like not being drafted at all anyway. So you're going to get fallers, right? Like, I don't know, I'm just making something up. Rams, Commanders, Texans, what have you, are going to fall. And the Bengals are still not going to win that. I mean, I guess technically they could win that first round game, right? Technically anything can happen, but there'll be massive, massive underdogs. And so you're really just betting on a 1 week advance rate play from a Jamar Chase. Maybe a T Higgins, maybe Joe Burrow if you have Mahomes or Goff or Darnold. But they're only going to move up so much that this isn't like over the summer where, you drafted, remember Darrell Henderson when Cam Akers got hurt, but you're like getting like 14th round Darrell Henderson, and all of a sudden he's a 3rd round pick. Like, and you get to use that value over the whole, like, that's not this case. This would be like, like the Vikings were a more interesting like thought experiment to me. It was like, if you just shoved all your chips on the Vikings when they were underpriced before, because they have a real shot to make the Super Bowl. I just don't really think that the Bengals do. And I can still have my cake and eat it too. Like, I have to pay 2 more rounds for Jamar Chase. Like, that's fine. It's totally fine.
You'd be swapping around if you took him today versus tomorrow. It really doesn't matter. Like you mentioned, we're adding players to the player pool without subtracting players.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a different case. And it's not even a case where, like, somebody in the chat just mentioned, hey, what about Atlanta making it? Well, Atlanta, if they make it, they get a home game.
Yeah.
Against a wild card team. Well, I mean, it would be Minnesota or Detroit.
Minnesota.
On their way.
Yeah, or Detroit, I should. I'm wish casting Minnesota into the fight.
Yes, but like we got to think about that like a little bit differently than going on the road against Josh Allen and the Bills.
Yeah, I just Clipper Nation says the thing to me about the Bengals is the defense is so bad. I can't even like convince with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T Higgins, that offense, right? Chase Brown, assuming Chase Brown is fine. It's still impossible to. And if they were running into, now I know they were the 1 seed and got the bye, but remember when the Titans were the 1 seed in the AFC? It was like, if they were get in and you play the Titans, we'd be having a very different conversation today than we are having about them. But get in and play arguably, right, the best team in football, top 5 for sure, probably top 3 for sure, the Bills. Like, that's your reward for like my reward for drafting Jamar, my reward for hitting a 20 to, let's just use 20 to 1 parlay, right? That's what I need to do. Why don't I just go bet that parlay at 20 to 1 and draft Jamar Chase next week at a slightly, when I know he's locked in. I just don't think that the upside outweighs. And like I said, if they're in next week, I may draft some because we'll talk today about some one-offs and some different strategies, especially on like the non-underdog sites. There's a lot of merit to those guys, right? I mean, I'm taking the Cortland Suttons and the Mike Evans and stuff, expecting 1 game on certain teams, but I just don't feel the need to pay for those guys. So I'm with you. I am drafting some Broncos at the moment, but they're just the math on that, right? When I get backed into Cortland Sutton, it's like I'm not happy about it. But like I need right? Like I drafted some Chiefs, Lions, maybe Vikings, whatever, and my wide receivers are already weak. Or like maybe we'll draft a Bills team today. You draft a Bills team, even though you don't have any guys on bye, your wide receivers still suck. Because you have Bills wide receivers. So like sometimes you get backed into those guys. I'm just waiting for a little bit of information to do it with Chase.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got backed into the Jaleel McLaughlin the other day. Was not a great feeling.
I took Marvin Mims this morning. I took Sutton and Mims this morning because I had a set, like it was one of those you hate running into, like you said, with the McLaughlin thing where you're like, I know I have to do that. I know I know I have to do this. B, I know it's not going to work, and this team is not going to advance. And yet I'm like, what else am I like? I can't just give away this team. I got to try. So I got to try for a 20-point game from somebody. It's just I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
This is great. Taco Bell stream. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how many people know that Taco Bell has chicken nuggets. Now, outside of if you're one of the couple thousand people in the Discord, you've seen several people post the Taco Bell nuggies, and I'll be honest with you. Big Country mentioned that they're kind of similar to Chick-fil-A, but I can't get my brain around that one, man. I can't get my brain around Taco Bell chicken nuggets. You got to sell me on these.
They're pretty good. I'm not a chicken person, but I ate them one time just to see taste test, whatnot. They are like whole pieces of chicken dunked in jalapeno buttermilk, and then the coating is tortilla.
Oh, okay. That's really different then.
But it's pretty good. I prefer a Wendy's spicy chicken nugget myself, but I do see the appeal.
RGT says I need to learn about the Taco Bell nuggies on a stream like we did with the hot dogs.
Which, I have been bantering Eric about a Taco Bell stream, but we did not plan it for today.
Yes, that is true. We have some ideas. It's a good segue out of the Taco Bell nuggies conversation and on into playoff best ball. But we are thinking about plenty more ideas to do. So we want to do, as a whole team over here at Spike Week, we want to do more of the like fun kind of streams and stuff. So we got a bunch of ideas, and maybe the spring will be a good time to test something out. A big board draft, smashing a bunch of Taco Bell nuggets would be fun. But trust me, we're going to try to do some of that. Bernie is getting all the food connoisseur takes, which everyone knows is very fitting. The total food connoisseur, but apparently Costco mozzarella sticks are the way to go.
Those are the best.
Let's the chat is on fire. I've not had White Castle. I got sick on White Castle my freshman year of college, so we're closing in on 20 years from that happening. I have not touched White Castle ever since. So and I used to like it. It's sad what that'll do to you. But let's really quick, let's talk about a couple of like maybe some different things you've tried in some of these drafts, and we'll see if that's something that comes into play when we do. We'll probably try to do an underdog draft, a DraftKings draft, and a drafters draft is what we've been trying to do, because it's fun to get a little flavor of all the different formats.
Definitely.
We've talked a lot about in the chat, so try to wrap this up. I think a lot of what we would call our best ball cabal, right? The real sickos, the people that are playing this very, very seriously, have played a lot, whether it's a hobby or whatnot, have sort of, it feels like we've like made really hard and fast rules about play. I've done this, dude. At the beginning of playoff best ball, you start to think through how to construct teams, and you're like, okay, I want to get 3 or 4 from over here and 2 from over here and whatever. And everything is team driven, correlation driven. Like the moment I make my first couple picks, I kind of know what my team is going to look like in general. And I don't think that's wrong, to be clear. I think that is a great way to draft teams. The problem is, we'll see when we get into this draft, you either have one or two kind of drafters, generally speaking. You have that drafter, what we would consider the sharp drafter, who drafts the 4-2-2-2 team, the 4-3-3 team, right? The 6-2-2, whatever. They all draft the same kind of way. Once I took a chief, I know I need X amount of chiefs. I'm only taking one-offs from teams I've already drafted someone on, because all that kind of stuff. And then we have the shit drafters, a little bit more so on DraftKings, but in general, right, that are just letting it rip. Right,
they're everywhere these days.
Yeah, we're taking a bunch of quarterbacks. We love the Bengals. Those guys love the Bengals. We probably can't field a Super Bowl lineup. We kind of have those drafters, which like has really made me think like there's a lot of ways to win this game. And if all of the best players are doing it this one way, I know I don't want to do what the bad guys are doing, but there's got to be some middle ground for some of this stuff. And what we've talked a lot about is just like using some different one-off pieces or some slightly different constructions to put stuff together to maybe be able to leapfrog past some of those really, really good, drafters, the way that they're structuring teams. Is there anything that stuck out to you thus far in all of your drafts that you've been, using a little more frequently?
So I'm a very big sicko, and I love building double buy teams. So I've been dabbling with the different ways to construct those. I've been spending a lot of time on DraftKings the last week and a half. I've just been really into the tight end format. It just it's like an extra layer of complexity that really gets my brain going. So one of the things that I've been doing with that is I've been building double buys with Kansas City and Detroit, or Kansas City and Minnesota. But I've been using their $3 contest to kind of try to pick different spots on the board to weave my one-offs in. And I think there's a really interesting case for weaving in one-offs in like the second and third round, which is way higher than a lot of people think it is.
Right.
I did try to weave in a one-off on drafters in the first round. I don't think I liked how that turned out, but I have been trying to do this some, because if most of our competition, to your point, is weaving in one-offs 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round, okay, well, if we both show up to the finals, I have a little bit of a different team. They might even be projected higher in the finals because they maybe have a higher concentration of the better players. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to advance at the same rates, or that doesn't mean that my team that's projected for 3 points less than the Super Bowl can't beat them.
As we saw with Jawan Jennings last year, as we saw 2 years ago with Kadarius Toney, almost scored like 20 points on like 4 touches in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. Chaos happens. Like you said, you're not walking in saying, I got this locked down. And I think that's what a lot of drafters ultimately want. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to build a potential Super Bowl team, ideally a team that has multiple potential matchups that they would have a live Super Bowl team. And then they want to have, when I show up, I got all the best guys, right? Which is totally that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want that? But when we think about the fact that that's how everyone is building this, and especially in playoff basketball, in regular season basketball, I get the people that say, like, I don't care about uniqueness, I don't care about all that kind of stuff because, right, I got to run this gauntlet to get to the final. I think that that's fine. In playoff basketball, there's a little bit of the pod variance and stuff, but a lot of overlap happens, especially later in the second, third round, especially, which then bleeds on into the finals. The teams that are still alive and the couple of players who have had big games are really highly represented, which means I don't want to just make the final, right? In regular season basketball, again, we're kind of like, just get me there and like, I'll see what happens because I can't really predict any of this. In this, not only do you want to get there, you really need to have a team that has a shot to make its way up the leaderboard. Ideally, it's unique, or it's like, then it becomes a showdown contest, like a DFS showdown contest. Minimize the dupes as much as you can and get with a live team. And so that's how I've kind of been thinking about this a lot. It's like, what could possibly happen that could knock out a bunch of these other teams to where even if I don't have the best version of this Super Bowl matchup, I get there at a rate that, I get there at a much higher rate than everybody else who built for this Super Bowl matchup. And it's like the high upside one-off. One of my favorites, actually, as Roheen says, he says, the streets don't do a Saquon one-off enough. If this, I admittedly have like sort of just backdoored into this a little bit, but if you take Saquon, if you draft at all, the Eagles are miserable to like build your team around because it's right. Hurts first round, AJ Brown, and everybody does it. And then maybe Devonta Smith comes around, and then there's only Dallas Goedert. And you can't really have, generally speaking, Hurts and Saquon most of the time. So you start thinking through that. It's like, well, let's just not bet on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. So everybody would say, well, fade them, right? I got to fade them. I got to get the other guys. It's like, well, I can think of one good way to get the Chiefs out of round one. That Saquon fella going for 40 or whatever. Like that sounds pretty good to me. So he's one of those unique cases to me that I'm taking advantage of too.
Well, I mean, I hadn't done it, but just when you're explaining that, okay, I'm just starting to map out the board for maybe a Detroit, Kansas City, a Saquon, Amon-Ra, Mahomes, if you can get it on the site, or Saquon, Amon-Ra, Goff, depending on how the whole board goes and like where you're picking from. That has definite appeal because you're skipping on the Detroit running backs. Then you're going to add Montgomery or Hunt later, and you need a couple good rounds of Saquon to get through with that team.
Yep. And that's what. So there's a couple of good comments here. Charles says too many people lose advancement by stacking Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore early, and they dart throw. Right, you have to dart throw the Cortland Suttons, and that's why people are drafting Jamar Chase, is because you draft. None of these teams have very good skill players, particularly wide receivers. Right, Derrick Henry is great, James Cook is fine, but it's like even Travis Kelce or Xavier Worthy as the best Chiefs wide receiver. Obviously, they have a bye, but then even setting that aside, like in the second round, there's still going to be everybody's going to have a bunch of really good teams. Only the shitty teams are in general going to get knocked out this first round. So now you're competing with like Xavier Worthy's fine, but like you're not like Xavier Worthy versus Amon-Ra St. Brown is not a fair. I know that they're different prices, but it's not a fair fight, right? So the follow up to that, right? Black Muddy River says you lose some advance rate, but the small amount of teams that do get through are a massive advantage. I agree, but where I was kind of talking about this before is that's why this is good. This strategy is good for this reason. I agree. If you can get home with this strategy, that makes sense. But the thing is, everyone drafts with this strategy. Like I said, there's the like really, really bad dead teams. And then there's these teams that they just say, I don't care. I don't care that Keon Coleman's never going to do anything. I'm just going to pray to the gods. Yeah. And I get that, but I'm like, how can I middle ground that? Right? How can I say I'm still going to have like basically that same live team that you are? I just need Dawson Knox to outscore Keon Coleman or Amari Cooper in the Super Bowl. Like that's my right. I need Ty Johnson to outscore Amari Cooper in the Super. Can that happen? You bet your ass that can happen because everyone just picks off, right? That they make these rules for themselves or they use a tool that says, okay, you took this guy. Who's the next guy up on that team? Or who's the next guy up on the opposing conference? And then we just start, right? It's like a checklist. Everybody builds a checklist and drafts that way. And I want to I still kind of have a checklist, but it's like check item number 3 is like a little bit different than the other people's checklist.
Yeah. And I like to think of it as like the community has defined what a good recipe is. Like, let's just say a cookie. And that cookie has 1.5 cups of chocolate chips for the ideal perfect cookie. Well, Eric, if you want cookies and you put in a cup and 3/4 of chocolate chips, is it still going to taste pretty good? Yeah, it might not be ideal. If you put in only a cup of chocolate chips, it's probably going to be just fine. You're going to eat all of the cookies. Like we've kind of as a community said, this is the recipe. When we can deviate off that recipe in different ways and it can still taste good at the end of the day.
That's so true. And every time in a game like this, when someone, myself included, everybody, right, or we as a whole decide, look at this, how this happens in the regular season stuff. We once upon a time we decided that the best quarterbacks in the NFL needs to go very highly in fantasy football drafts, right? Aaron Rodgers, 1st round pick. Peyton Manning, 1st round pick. Slowly we started to figure out, I can get like kind of the same stuff from later guys, and those other positions are more valuable. We learned something new. We changed. But if you back then, if you were not drafting Aaron Rodgers in the 1st round, it's like, what are you doing? If you ranked Aaron Rodgers where he really like, look at the Rodgers and Stafford types. They're like ranked in the 160s now. They were 1st round picks not that long ago. And if you were someone that said these guys are undraftable, everybody would have mocked you, right? Then we move on down and we're on to the running backs and the wide receivers and all that. And we're starting to figure out that kind of stuff. The 1st round used to be all running backs, maybe Calvin Johnson or Randy Moss or somebody like Antonio Brown. Those guys would be in the 1st round. And then it was all running backs. And we started to figure out that maybe that was not the best way to do it. This is not to say that we've ever figured any of this out. 2 years ago, while wide receivers got more expensive and running backs got less expensive, people were still like pretty adamant about like early running back and stuff. 0 RB, right? Shoots the moon, you get Achane, you get Mostert, you get Kyron, you get all these guys that pop up, and 0 RB is a total smash. Then we come into this year and we say, I know Saquon is now on the Eagles. I know Derrick Henry is now on the Ravens. I know, right? I know Bijan Robinson is a superstar, but we can't draft those guys. Don't you know? You can't take early running backs, right? And then we just keep moving on to the next thing. In playoff best ball, it's that on steroids because it's all scenario based. Look back to some of the games last year. The Dallas Cowboys were the worst team you could have picked in playoff best ball. Yep. And Jake Ferguson was the best individual pick you could have taken in the 1st round, right? Gabe Davis on the Bills a couple of years ago when they played the Chiefs, you didn't want the Bills, but you know how many people advanced Bills teams because Gabe Davis went for 50, had 4 touchdowns in that game. It's like when I think about those kinds of scenarios, they're crazy and they're off the wall, but nobody ever considers those. How do I consider those into my builds and say, I'm going to advance that team, and I'm going to face all Bill stacks in the next round, and they're dead. And all I lost was Gabe Davis, or all I lost was Gabe Davis and Ty Johnson. And now I have a huge leg up in that round. And like, just thinking through all those scenarios is something I've been really trying to focus on this year.
I think it's a really good thing to talk about while we're getting into a draft, is just how can we put these pieces together in a way that makes sense? It follows the general premise of the recipe, but maybe a little bit different than everybody else. And that Gabe Davis point from a few years ago is a great one. The Jake Ferguson, I didn't have any Jake Ferguson because I didn't have any Cowboy stacks last year. Right. And guess what? I got smoked on DraftKings with the tight end position. It was just over for me.
It was because bad on Underdog. Now imagine you have to start a tight end. The dude just went nuts. And some teams might have had a high scoring tight end and him. You were cooked. It was over.
Yeah. It was not a great playoff best ball season on DraftKings for me because of that. I did make one finals team though, and I just had the Super Bowl wrong on DraftKings. So that was pretty disappointing.
Yeah. I think we'll see this year, and everybody it will be the complaints of I had such a good team if so-and-so team would have won, right? Yeah. Like we all experienced that. We're like, I advanced the team through and it's all dead. And it's like, if only it's like, yep, that's it. That's the game. That's how this works.
It's exactly what we're playing. Like, you're gonna get those if you're like, oh man, if the Lions don't fall to the 49ers, I win the money. Yep. But it's just that's the game.
That's the game. There's some good comments. If everyone, this is really good. But if everyone is entering a cookie contest with the same amount of chocolate chips, you're actually less likely to win. Right? That's the kind of perfect next segment of this. So you can still use chocolate chips. We're still going to use chocolate chips, right? But we're going to change the amounts, or we're going to change the size of the cookie, or right? We're just going to do those different things, because if all the cookies are the same in the contest, how are you going to win with the same cookie as everybody else? So I love this. Just need a chocolate chip and a chair. That's a perfect segue into. Let's hop on to Underdog first. I like to do Underdog first because well, quite frankly, it's the easiest. There's no tight end position. There's fewer rounds. Half PPR.
It's not as complicated.
It's much less complicated. I'm just gonna hop in the mitten too here. Oh, of course, Underdog.
So there was a question in the chat of Detroit and Minnesota, and which team would you feel better with? Oh, do the big man.
That'd be a slight change in strategy.
Which team do you feel better with the 5 seed? And I feel way better betting on Minnesota with the 5 seed than I do Detroit with the 5 seed.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the question. I apologize for who it is. The chat has been going crazy. You feel better about Minnesota still making the Super Bowl as the 5 than you do as Detroit. If Detroit is the 5, you're like their odds less. You need them to get the bye to feel good about them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is that? You're a Lions fan, so we need the inside baseball.
I think if the Detroit Lions are going to make the Super Bowl, it's one of those things where they've had so much go wrong the last 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. They really need the easiest path at this stage. They keep saying that these guys are going to come back from injury, like Montgomery and Anzalone. I don't know if I fully buy it with all of them, or Carlton Davis. I don't know if I buy it. So I almost am like, hey, they need the path of least resistance to get there. If Detroit has to go on the road 3 straight games, potentially on the road in Philadelphia with Jared Goff's small hands, then, okay, let's go up to Minnesota for a rematch in the Dome in the conference championship. It just doesn't feel that good to me. All right, what do you want to do here?
I obviously typically take Hurts, but I wouldn't mind trying something with one of the AFC running backs, or doing our Saquon one-off if you want to try something a little bit different, doing Derrick Henry or Saquon or Gibbs.
So let's do Saquon. Okay. I have just honestly haven't done much Saquon at all.
Me either.
So I think it'll be fun to do together. I would normally myself do Gibbs here, but like I mentioned at the start, I am a sucker for a good double bye team. So I'm doing those more than the field is, because I want to more find those softer spots of, hey, not many people are trying for this. I'm probably going to lose my money more often than other people, but am I giving myself more outs to the first place?
Yep, I totally agree. So, one thing that's interesting about the Saquon one-off is that sometimes you can get the Chiefs on the other side, which is, I think that's kind of the ideal. So why do you say that? Is because you cannot get the Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson with Saquon Barkley. You can basically never get Saquon and Jalen Hurts. Not like that matters that much, but you need an AFC team if you have, right? It obviously, no matter what you build. And for me, I don't know if you're the same way. I'm really only ever building, unless something just terrible happens in the draft, I'm only building for 3 AFC teams to be in the Super Bowl. And that's the in terms of my core team, right? I'll have Steelers, I'll have Texans, I'll have Chargers, whatever. But Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills are the 3 teams I'm like building around for the Super Bowl. So obviously Lamar and Allen are gone. If there's any way to get Patrick Mahomes on a Saquon team, it's a priority for me.
Yeah, so we there it goes. So
now it's fun.
We do have the option of going like into Detroit or into Minnesota here.
See, I would take Minnesota. I would start to build the Minnesota stuff. We can either go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna take JJ. We can either build it for the Lions win this weekend and Minnesota does not get the bye, or you can always attach on another, just a bye week filler quarterback at the end if we really want to.
Yeah, so I think it'd be pretty interesting to play Minnesota, Kansas City Super Bowl with Saquon as that ultimate one-off.
Yep. Would you build this as they are the double bye?
Yeah.
Okay. I like
that. Probably means
people are like, why does that matter? It's because who we take around those 5 guys is really important. Obviously, I like it because when you have Saquon, right, you're like, I have a Minnesota KC Super Bowl. That could be double. They could be the 1 seeds, and I have Saquon that can help get me there, right? Yeah. Like that's got to be the best piece to help you. Okay, Aaron Jones goes. That stinks. So we'll have to think about a running back later. It's going to be Kareem Hunt or something. But do you want to do Kelsey Worthy? Do you want to wait? Do you want to take another one off? Probably not.
No, let's do Kelsey.
Okay.
And then since we've definitely backdoored ourselves into this, we need to figure out where Darnold's going to go and beat them.
I want to toss him in the queue. Goff is still on the board, which is good.
Yeah,
it's not.
There's the Amon-Ra drafter, I believe, that still needs someone.
Right, and it's nice when you do get maybe another drafter or 2 that's staying in their lane, but also pushing the quarterback a little bit is a good thing. There goes Worthy. Let's see here.
Yeah, so just looking at how we're thinking about doing this, we really want to prioritize Darnold, Hunt, Addison.
Yeah, yes. So Darnold for sure, Addison. I also don't hate, like, if something just absolutely miserable happens and we don't get Hunt, P. Ryan, and even Akers are like just last round fallback options. Is obviously they're only Super Bowl, but we're at that point we're hoping double bye, and so I just want to have the full roster. I don't really care,
because right now we're basically saying, hey, these 3 teams we're picking from right now are going to the conference championship.
Yes.
Saquon's falling off. Minnesota and Kansas City are continuing. Can you pull up the draft board?
Yes.
You got to scroll to the top of our team.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering. Okay. So we are back on the clock. Laporta, Pacheco, go. The Goff guy did take his quarterback, but we can push Darnold, I think, because it's Lamar Allen next to us.
I don't know. That guy took Aaron Jones. Do you want to?
But
so I guess it's either Addison or Darnold.
I think it's Addison. I think we should try Addison. I know he took Aaron Jones, and this could blow up, right? It's very, very, very possible that this blows up, and sometimes it will. I think that's one thing that I also try to do plenty in the playoff drafts is like the right thing here is to get Addison on this team. In my opinion, if one of neither one of these guys should take Sam Darnold, but not everybody agrees with that, right? Sometimes they will take Sam Darnold, and you'll feel like, well, I get all right. So now I don't feel like risking it is basically what I would say. We need Darnold on this team. You could, and I've tried. I'll be totally honest with you. I've gal-brained this and said, all right, fuckers, try.
Well, also the guy over here is sitting with no quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We got Bonesaw doubled up, and we got somebody with none. I don't want to push that.
So this guy is this would be hilarious. Sorry, Bonesaw, but if we don't if we don't get the double bye here and he gets it with both of his quarterbacks, that would be funny. Yeah. But as you said, the 106 does not have a quarterback yet. It doesn't have much going on. Well, no, got a couple Ravens.
I don't mind what Bonesaw's doing here whatsoever. I think it's a perfect. It obviously is directly contradicting what we're doing in this specific draft, but playing Detroit through the 5 to the Super Bowl, like, that's fine. People could definitely do it. It's not really my jam, but it's very viable.
Yeah, for sure. That's it. This has risk, but it also has Goff is just my right. I'm playing for the
Goff
Super Bowl
gets anyway. 35 in the wild.
I'm playing for the Super Bowl anyway. Now Goff, like, instead of taking Jaden Daniels, I'm just using Jared Goff. Yeah. Plus, it gives me Super Bowl. Right, it gives me those. Yeah. Everybody uses the one-offs at the end and just says, I just need somebody to get me through. And it's like, well, why can't you have a guy that also helps you in the second round or the third round?
Yeah. So this comes to, do we want to go for like a super, like LAR coming in? Do we want to go with something like Amari Cooper for a second AFC team?
I think we just build this double bye and we stick to the Chiefs. I don't hate Kyron. I don't hate Amari though.
Yeah. So we could go Amari here. Let's
do Amari because it does it at the absolute worst case scenario. My only problem with Amari is he's the only problem with Amari is he's a pretty shitty pick relative to the other guys around him. If this is a double bye, bye team, right? Kyron, Nico, I can probably scroll down. Hawk. Do we already have? No, we already have our two Minnesota guys plus Kelsey. So we just need a running back from the Super Bowl, right? Yeah,
we need a running back from the Super Bowl. We're gonna have to wait on that though. We need
let's just punt it off. If it ends up being Hunt, great. If it ends up being Pirine, fine. Or Akers, it's
fine. What's up at wide receiver?
I do Neek. Some of my favorites for this kind of a team, because again, we can, if we want to add another Bill, it's tricky. But now we're counting on a couple of Bills in this lineup. I haven't taken much Nico here. I mostly take him.
He's probably the right person here.
Okay, he goes. So Pickens makes sense because it's also another AFC player.
Can you give half a scroll? Is McLaurin down there still?
Nope.
Okay.
He's been rising. Yeah, look at that. 601.
Okay. I saw Mike and Ladd went before we took him on.
Yeah. That's kind of I'm gonna go ahead and take Pickens because I think that's probably what we should do. The like one-off priority order would you put Ladd first or Evans first or Nico first? Who would you put? Those guys?
I think it depends on your site. If it was Underdog, Mike Evans. If it was Drafters or DraftKings, Ladd. Drafters, probably Mike Evans because it give him a better shot to get 2 games. But
right, and that could change too if the Chargers play Houston. Yeah, they can they can beat Houston. But that's another reason why, again, we'll get to those sites. I like those guys. I like those guys on all of these different teams, but I like those guys on Drafters and DraftKings a bunch because they're high upside one-offs, and the Texans or Chargers could definitely win a game. George Pickens and the Steelers can definitely win a game. I'm a little less bullish on the Bucs, but it's definitely possible. They could certainly win a game.
All right, so we need quarterback, Super Bowl running back, and wild card round flex.
Cool. So Daniels, I'm just gonna put Daniels in there. Daniels.
We could go Daniels, Hunt, then fill our wild card flex.
Let me just make sure there's not anybody, unless you want Kincaid, because then we would have to use
No.
2 Bills. But
I don't want to use Kincaid and Cooper.
Okay.
I understand why some people might.
It would set them up for the Minnesota Bills Super Bowl, but I think we've kind of made our bed here with this particular Super Bowl. So I would rather just bet on the Chiefs. Amari can still help us in the second and the third, right? First, second, and third round, but give our this team's like DOA if it's using both Amari and Dalton Kincaid's scores in the first round.
It's nice when you give yourself multiple Super Bowl options, but sometimes that's weakening the overall team.
Right. So,
and we've painted ourselves by doing a first round one-off. We've kind of pulling that privilege from this team.
Exactly.
You can't have both things necessarily.
And the expected value or the win equity or whatever fucking cheesy term we want to use, right, is not just do you have a bunch of Super Bowl matchups. It's you got to get through all 4 of these rounds. And we can't just say, oh, it's a Bill. I want to have more Bills on this team because this point scoring matters.
Yeah. Wild card flex.
Wild card flex. Okay. Highest upside. We don't want running back. Well, I guess I think wide receiver would be the best just because, I know that the running back can technically fill the flex, but we need 2 of these guys to smash. And
no, we're locked into Cooper and Pickens right now.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
We only get
wide receiver.
3.
All right, sorry. Dobbs is viable to me. Christian Watson.
It's Dobbs or Mixon.
Oh, shit. You're right. I'm doing Mixon.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't get it. Damn it. That's my fault. That's my fault for talking. It should have been Mixon. You're right. And just locked into Amari and Pickens. It's not bad. It's fine. I think it's totally fine. What contest is that into?
Yeah.
So for folks listening on audio, Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels at quarterback. So we started with Saquon out of the 103, specifically with the intent to build either a one-off Saquon to get a double bye team through, or there was always potential to build for an Eagles Super Bowl with the Chiefs on the other side. But then take Saquon, end up with Hunt as our second running back as the Super Bowl running back, and then Justin Jefferson. Of course, we have Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce, Jordan Addison is our Super Bowl wide receivers and flex, and then Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Romeo Dobbs help us get home alongside Saquon and Jaden Daniels. That's fine. I think that's fine. Obviously, this team also has outs to Minnesota losing this weekend, right? And then, frankly, we're in a lot better shape for the first round, but it obviously is a little weaker long term.
So let's say we could manipulate this just a little bit before we get into our next draft. A couple of things that I would like to see us do. I probably do the Mixon over Dobbs.
Yeah.
If ideal circumstance, maybe we get 40 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
Also, when we're trying to have conversation is going around, it went real quick in that last round, so we didn't quite get there, but that's probably ideal. But also, I don't mind, even though, if folks are seeing here, we did kind of spray and pray a little bit for the wild card round. That's why I was looking for McLaurin, if we could do McLaurin with Daniels, because I think that would be an ideal circumstance. Agreed. It didn't work out on this specific lobby, but it will. That's what sometimes. You want. But I do ideally want to try to get some correlation with my quarterback and my wide receiver.
I think we could have taken
the fact that it's Daniels. It's
we could have taken Zacchaeus or Zach Ertz as well with that last pick.
Yeah.
But again, I was talking and not paying attention.
Yeah. So Zach Ertz is secretly one of the best picks on DK and drafters right now.
I agree, because they can win. Also, they can win their first round game. You could get multiple games out of them. Muddy says it's not only multiple Super Bowl matchups; it's having many roster combos. If you have, that's definitely true. But as let's see, Nolan says to a couple of the different comments, if you're giving yourself multiple different combinations, you're almost for sure duped in the finals. And that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I have these teams, to be totally clear. I have teams of the give me I talked about this on one of the very first playoff best ball draft streams that I did here this year, and 5 years ago, I think, when we started this channel. I can't believe it's been that long, but was like the dream is to have the conference championships, right? And what I really do prefer is I made one bet on one Super Bowl team, and then but then so long as I get the other conference championship right, I have a Super Bowl lineup. That's absolutely the ideal. The problem is, yet again, everyone has those. That's every time you get there, that's what everyone is going to have. So all those permutations, right, of this 3 with this 2 and this 2 with this 3 and this 4 with this 2 that's what everyone does. And so again, I have those. I'm not foregoing those. We're just talking about some different ways today to build for some teams, right? Like double bye, like Saquon goes to the conference championship. So you don't want Eagles in the conference championship, but Saquon just goes scorched earth throughout the full playoffs, right? It's like, okay, what can that do for me, right? All everybody ever thinks about is how do I put the teams together for the teams winning? And that's absolutely the biggest pillar of this whole thing. But when you think about certain scenarios, like what if the Eagles go to the conference championship, Saquon goes nuts the whole time? What can that get me that my opponents are not drafting for? Right. Yeah. And like, think about those kinds of things and then just build a few teams for that type of a thing. Right. We do it with our quarterbacks. We say, well, I got Josh Allen. So Josh Allen's just going to go nuts the whole playoffs and the Bills are going to make the Super Bowl. Well, what if, Saquon goes nuts, the Eagles win 2 games and lose the third? Like, you're gonna want him for 3 weeks. How can I still win this tournament with that happening? And he helps me in it. Instead of trying to pray to God I don't have Saquon in my pod, how can I win with that scenario, right?
Yeah, there's going to be very, very few teams in the mitten too with double bye KC, Minnesota, and Saquon. Like,
exactly.
I don't know the percents, but I would imagine it's darn near close to 0.
And that's the last.
So many people just aren't even building Minnesota by. Yeah.
Nobody.
Even though it's very likely.
That's
45, 48% probably.
Exactly. And so when you start to think about those combinatorial things, those are huge for me. Like, if no one is ever, we can go ahead and do DraftKings next. Yeah. The sheer volume of teams that have certain combinations is like it's just like over the summer. It's like astronomically higher, right? And so you're like, I'm giving this team more outs by building more of those combinations within that one team. But there's way more teams that have those combinations. So even if that combination hits, you're actually not better off than drafting this weird, funky thing that's less likely to hit. But when it does, you're only competing with, right? I think it was Dial at the very top. This is double buys, the easiest way for everybody to kind of wrap their brains around this. But sorry, I'm going to he posted, I want to make sure I get it right. Apologize. Read the double bye. The last time we had both 1 seeds in the Super Bowl, there were only 8 teams in, I believe this is like the gauntlet or whatever, the mitten, the Underdog big tournament. There were only 8 teams in the whole finals that could now think about 6-man rosters on DraftKings. There's only 5 roster spots you need for a starting lineup. Only 8 teams could fill that with the double bye. And they're the 2 most likely teams to make the Super Bowl, right? Mathematically. So how do we build for some of those scenarios?
And I like having Darnold double stacked and then the touchdown potential on the Kansas City side with Kelsey and Hunt in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
I'll take that. If we have to roll the dice 1 of 8, I'll roll that dice with those 5 guys.
I totally agree. I'd really like to draft in the 20 here. So let's go ahead and I've only got 25 and I've only got 25 shots into this one, and it's filling a lot quicker than I thought it would.
It was about this morning half full there. It looked like on the previous.
I woke up this morning and it had really taken a size. As you can see, it's filling very quick. I just quickly hopped in and it fills quick. So we are picking out the 102. Are you getting funky with this one? Are you just taking Lamar out of the 102 every time? How are you? Sounds about right. No, Nolan made that final that year, and he had the equivalent of 4 players because MVS got a 0.
Well, it's so funny. I was trying to figure out between Watson and Juju to fill a Super Bowl the other day, and I was like, this might be the MVS 0.
Yeah, this feels it's just like the Broncos conversation. You're like, I know I have to do this, but this I can't believe I'm wasting my brain power thinking about this because it's definitely not going to work.
If there's anybody who cares, which there's probably not, I went Watson over Juju.
It's got to be Watson. I think he's at least going to be on the field. But
yeah,
Juju's an interesting one to like. I took a Tylan Wallace once because I know it's supposed to be Aguilar when all the other Ravens are gone, but I was like, you know what? I can't have like 10 Nelson Aguilar teams. That's disgrace. Like that's disgraceful. So just a little bit of crazy stuff at the end.
Yeah. So I haven't done a whole lot of Lamar on DraftKings.
Okay.
I think it would be fun.
Well, I am taking Allen and Lamar every time in the first 2, not because I don't think that there's merit in being funky, but because I'm only going to have so many drafts, and the Bills and the Ravens are my 2 favorite teams to draft. There's a lot of issues when you get into these drafts and you don't have an AFC quarterback out of the top, right? If you don't get your, you kind of get backed into Darnold, you get backed in, and then it's not that that's bad. It's not, but it's like now I can't, like, if something falls to me, I'm screwed because like I just have to have Darnold. Otherwise I have some Jordan Love teams or Jaden Daniels teams, but it's like, I'm just praying for that team to advance. So let's go ahead and do Lamar. We can kind of see what comes back here.
The interesting thing about Lamar here is we do have an Ed Reed logo in the room, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled.
Good call.
So that's almost guaranteed to be a Derrick Henry first round pick right there.
Shoes. Show yourself in the chat. Shoes.
Shout out Ed Reed. But the other nice thing about Lamar on this site is that it does open up Andrews and Likely.
Mm-hmm. Andrews, I think, is
they're both good picks.
I'm just trying to see. Let's see. So Andrews is my highest owned tight end. I have 34% Andrews. Oh, so Tucker Kraft is up there too, but you can see it was a panic. Oh no, I need tight end points there. But yeah, Andrews is like my favorite click on all of DraftKings.
So I think we just go whichever NFC wide receiver is here with those top 3 guys.
Yeah, totally. They don't usually fall here. So JJ it is. Oh, I was wrong. They're gone. I thought we were on deck there and we were in the hole. Yeah. So all 3 of those wide receivers are gone. Are you taking Zay? Do we want to go over to the NFC, go to Devonta Smith or something like that? Give ourselves that out. We do have Bateman, Andrews likely in our pocket.
So I probably go Zay.
Okay.
And then when I'm thinking NFC, we have to get an NFC running back. I almost want to go into Minnesota and take Aaron Jones.
Oh, okay. Yep. Got it.
Because then that opens us up Addison and Hawk.
Yep.
And then Naylor late.
I'm just going to add some of these guys so I don't screw it up so bad later. I have more Jalen Naylor than I care to admit as well.
I went to take him the other day and I got sniped and I was like, wait, hold on.
Somebody took Naylor in like the 8th round in one draft that I was like, I think he had like Addison and Jones and I had Jefferson, Darnold and Hawk or whatever. And I'm like, I need this last guy to fill out this Super Bowl. I'm like, all right, we got Naylor in the queue. You stop right. You're walking around the house. You're not thinking about it. I come back in like the 10th or 11th. I'm like, all right, I'll just go ahead and take him here. Like he's gone 2 rounds ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you preferred Aaron Jones on this team?
Yeah, because otherwise we're really screwed at running back.
Yep. A lot of Justice Hill for that reason. I do really like him on DraftKings.
He could still come on this team.
Yeah.
We don't.
It's just a flex. It's just a Super Bowl flex. Yeah.
So I think at this stage we're still open.
We'll
Minnesota
talk about this
5 seed or 1 seed.
We'll talk about this, Muddy, when we get done here. Agreed. You nailed it. It's a tricky spot. Let's see here. Interesting. Puka has not been falling. So I'm a little shocked. There he goes at 19. I can't believe that, but that's about the furthest I've seen Puka Fall in a while on DraftKings. He's just such a good one-off, and the Rams can win a game. They can win multiple games.
Mm-hmm.
So people really love him. Andrews comes back.
Okay. What? So this guy hasn't gone Minnesota yet. What?
To the board.
Yeah.
He has Allen Shakir, Devonta Smith. So I think he's more likely for Addison.
Yeah.
So should we take Addison and see if
let's take Andrews? Addison.
Okay.
Well, and we have 3 outs at tight end. I'd like to take Andrews here, but it's fine.
Yeah. The ideal is Addison Andrews at this turn, but if it doesn't happen, we have more tight end outs than we have wide receiver outs.
Yeah,
so take Addison.
You could sell me even on if Andrews goes, just going straight to Mike Evans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or even Kyron here.
He takes Kincaid, so it shouldn't.
Okay, so he's doing the whole I'm a Buffalo guy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So at this stage, we really have a good chunk of our Super Bowl. We can pivot.
Right. Here. And toss on. I'm going to take Hawk out, actually, just so I don't know.
I'd probably take them both out.
Okay. So now, I mean, we could play Hawk as the flex in the Super Bowl if we want to here. We also have Bateman as that option. We could one off Nico. We could
I might be Bucky. If we want to play Minnesota bye.
Same thing. He's not good. I wouldn't mind Bucky Bateman here and actually get Bateman unless there's another one off, right? Unless we want Mixon, unless we want Jaden.
We don't need Bateman on this team.
We definitely don't need him. Do we have 1, 2? So he would be our.
We only need one more player for the Super Bowl.
So the question is Bateman enough of a priority, or is there someone else? I'm just gonna toss some cues in. Nico, right? Is Nico the Nico one-off in maybe 2 games better than Bateman in the flex for the Super Bowl? Is Jaden Reed and giving ourselves another like Packers out, right? Is that a priority?
I like McMillan on this team.
He's probably going to be around.
Yeah, he'll be available for a bit.
Oops. All right. Nico, Bateman, Jaden Reed, George Pickens, Jalen McMillan. I guess Mixon. Even though we just took Bucky.
No, I would do Nico over Mixon.
I think so too. I've warmed a little bit to Nico and Mixon. Obviously, they're just people are like they're just advanced rate plays, and that's largely true. But they could win. They could win a game.
Yeah,
they can.
And I don't mind if Mixon came back around tagging him on. He went.
Yeah.
But if the whole market's just going to decide Houston's going to be terrible, which they probably are.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind building that they win a game.
Schultz is in the Ertz conversation at the end of drafts as well at tight end. I was taking Kraft like crazy, and he's still relatively affordable, but he has become used to get Kraft in the last round of every single draft, and now that's more Ertz, Freiermuth, and Schultz. All right, about to come back up again.
I'd like McMillan at one of these.
Okay, I think we can. Take another guy and then McMillan. Let me see here. I don't think he has Evans. Yeah, he did the Rams thing, so he is and Devonta Smith.
So he's probably anti-Bucks.
Yeah,
if he did the Rams,
he should be anti-Bucks. Pickens goes. I don't hate Jaden Reed on this team and try to go Jaden Reed McMillan. We could just go ahead and do Justice as our flex. We don't have Derrick Henry. Likely Kraft and then the punts. I kind of like waiting for a punt if we want a tight end. I think I would do actually Justice Hill and McMillan. Justice Hill and McMillan. I really like Justice Hill on Lamar non-Henry teams because obviously if Derrick Henry doesn't go nuts, that's really good for Lamar, but it's also really good for you could get an actual spike week out of just like how do you go to war with the Ravens team in the Super Bowl that's not Derrick Henry? It's like, well, having the running back who benefits from a negative game script or whatever.
Yeah. I am viewing the Packers as the 7 against Philadelphia.
Yeah, which is really bad.
Like, will I tag on some Packers? Sure, but that price on Jaden Reed still seems a bit high.
Yeah, it sucks because for the last couple of weeks, the positive, we always talk about paying the tax in regular best ball, right? I had to pay the Jaylen Warren tax to get Chase Brown. I had to pay the Green Bay Packers tax to get all my Vikings and such because the run out for the Packers in terms of who their matchups and everything is rough.
All right, so we have 3 picks left.
I'm just tossing some guys in here just because they're potentially
viable.
Schultz does make sense on this team because we have Nico.
Yeah.
We don't have Commanders or Steelers. Oh, what in the let me flip to running backs. Demont, Hunt, Gainwell, the Steelers guys. Sutton just went.
Okay.
Naylor.
I like Montgomery Schultz.
Yeah, I think that's the right.
If you're into Montgomery, but I don't want to force it.
No, I'm into Montgomery. You see, I got 15%. And what I do like about Montgomery, and I'll make sure to actually make the pick.
Yeah, I was going to say actually pick him.
I'll make sure to actually make the pick. Is I don't have necessarily him a ton with all of those different guys. I have this set up so you can see, percentage with like QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end, round 1, round 2, round 3. So there's some overlap there, but it helps. You'll see during the draft other people.
Yeah. So it basically is we're playing now. We have the option of Minnesota or Detroit getting the bye.
Yep.
And now, granted, Montgomery's probably not playing wild card round if they don't get it, but it does give us some optionality that we're playing those 2 teams in the NFC Championship. We're paying Baltimore all the way through the AFC.
So, do we want to push Schultz and do Tim Patrick to add to the? He is here.
I don't mind it.
I actually think that's probably the right thing to do. Let's do Tim Patrick.
Yeah, because then we got the exact same build, Minnesota and Detroit.
Exactly.
Whichever's on bye doesn't.
Slightly better version on the Minnesota side, but Tim Patrick versus Jordan Addison. Hey, I mean, shit. Tim Patrick, anything can happen. When did he have that couple touchdown game? Yeah, see? Not that long ago. Boy, the change in the Tim Patrick role. Hey, it's 7 targets, 8 targets, 1-0.
Yeah.
Did catch the 2-point.
I mean, 2 points from Tim Patrick, if it's a Lions Baltimore Super Bowl, could be the difference maker here, though.
Definitely.
And somebody took our Schultz, so that sucks.
Otten is back limited at practice.
Okay, and I was doing some dirt research. This Payne Durham guy hadn't practiced the last time I looked.
Yeah,
not that he's like,
and he stinks. But so they're both limited. I think it's probably Otten unless we are just going to ride with, which I think you can just ride with Andrews the whole way too, if we want to add somebody else. Najee, Rashad White.
Is Jaylen Warren there?
No, that was what I was hoping for. There is Najee, there is Naylor, QJ.
Najee or
Fryer. I mean Freiermuth.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Otten, or I think it's Otten or Freiermuth probably.
Let's do Freiermuth since we have Bucky. Just
Bucky and McMillan. Like, is Otten gonna? I mean, they're all punts, so we really, if any of them get home, it's good. But we kind of need Bucky. You know what I mean?
We do very need Bucky, and that's why I don't really want. I need Bucky to consolidate the touchdowns. I don't need Otten to steal one.
Right, 100%. So let's stay here, run down this team really quickly. What I should use this when I read this.
You probably should.
I love this. I use it during. I know we're talking here a lot, but I use this during the draft constantly. If you have the draft hacker, of course, it's on desktop only. But if you have a Spike Week subscription, I'm using this all the time throughout the draft. Like the easiest way to see, which teams I have. There's a bunch of other different views that you can show as well, right? Like
I like the Super Bowl one.
Yeah, we have. Let's see. Where's No, that's not it. I do like the playoff odds is interesting, right? So obviously Baltimore, you can see the teams with the highest odds to play Baltimore in the Super Bowl. That's draft capital, which I don't care that much about for here. And then like the combinatorial stuff. So it'll show you who's up in the pool and how much you have of all the various combinations. It's nice if you don't have that necessarily over here. And of course, stacks as well, the remaining players that you can stack with a team. So if you're like, oh God, who's the next Raven up, right? Just go to the stacks button and it'll go. But teams started with Lamar, and tacked on Justice Hill later, but Lamar, Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews. Chef's kiss. Love that. That worked out well. And we actually went with a little Minnesota on the other side. So this is a Minnesota I'm with a Lions fan who were just flag planting the Vikings here in all of our drafts. Aaron Jones, a good fit with a non-Derrick Henry Ravens team, and Jordan Addison. And then, kind of some we have we technically have both a Tampa Bay and a Detroit Super Bowl live. I don't think anybody cares about the Tampa Bay version,
No.
but
we did get 3.
Yeah. We have 3 of the teams in the NFC that would give us a Super Bowl, so that's good. Bucky and Jalen McMillan, David Montgomery and Tim Patrick. That feels like the MVS and whatever CEH pairing, from the Chiefs. But hopefully DeMont comes back, and that looks nice. I think in this scenario it would be really. I think we were hoping for the Minnesota bye on the other one, and on this one, I think we would like the Detroit bye to give us a little time to get DeMont back in there, and then Nico and Pat Freiermuth one off to kind of close us out on DraftKings. I like this team. I like this team.
It's pretty fun.
I like it more than the Underdog team because I fucked up the Romeo Dobbs pick, so that's living rent free in my head over there.
Yeah. Well, but like I don't think Dobbs is the worst pick these days. There's just the weird stuff always going on with Watson. There's the weird stuff going on with Wicks. Dobbs sometimes just pulls the 2 touchdowns out of his hat, and they might just be throwing a shit ton against Philadelphia. So it's fine.
What do you think about this? John says, and then I also want to hit the other question that I forgot, Black Muddy's question, but John says, feels like if you're drafting Minnesota or Detroit, draft as if they get the bye right now, because either will become much more available if they lose on Sunday. It's a pretty interesting point, saying, whoever loses, whoever doesn't get the bye, people are going to know and build around that. And if they get the bye, people are going to, once we have that information, people are going to act on it. So what do you think about that? Or are you just going to like take some more risks right now?
I don't believe this logic.
Okay.
Here's why. Detroit and Minnesota are both going to score a ton of points.
Yeah.
So they're still going to be in the top 6 teams if they lose. So everyone's going to need one of those 6 quarterbacks. So even let's say Minnesota loses to Detroit, they're not going any further back in the draft than they are right now. Darnold probably still comes up. Darnold needs to come up on every platform. But if Detroit loses, so maybe it just becomes Gibbs, Amon-Ra at the 6-7. But is that really any different than where they're at with the 4-8 right now or whatever? Like it's not enough that I'm changing my draft strategies today. Like they might drop a pick or 2, but they're still one of the top 6 teams. There's only realistically 6 teams to win the Super Bowl. Can wild stuff happen? Sure. But you're not going to find many people going Rams versus Texans or something. Like,
right.
Everybody wants one of those 6 quarterbacks. So they're going to have one of those 6 teams.
Totally agree. Muddy says, before we'll hop into a drafters draft here in just a second, but just to hit some of you guys' questions, are you Lamar over Hurts? He says Eagles have twice the Super Bowl odds, but definitely don't want to be underweight Lamar and the Ravens. Tough spot. That's really it for me. One, Lamar's a little bit more of a dynamic fantasy quarterback. I know Hurts is really good. I'm not trying to say Hurts is nothing, but the Eagles have no interest in passing. Okay. They like if one of these 2 guys is the air quotes guy you need in the first round at quarterback, Lamar to me is the better bet to be that, because the Ravens will come out and actually, like we saw it against the Giants, right? It just profiles as the peak Derrick Henry spot, and Lamar is so good and their offense is so good that they'll just come out and score a bunch of points through the air, or Lamar will get a rushing touchdown. He threw a touchdown to Justice Hill and then positive get they're up by 30 and he's throwing touchdown pass. So Jalen Hurts,
Tez Walker, baby.
Yeah, Tez caught a touchdown in the game. Justice Hill caught a touchdown in the game. Just at both tight ends caught a touchdown in that game. So I just don't want to be locked out of the Ravens. The other thing I'll add is that AFC quarterbacks, if you don't have Allen, Lamar, or Mahomes, and Mahomes gets the bye, so that has its own wrinkles. If you don't have Allen or Lamar, you're in trouble, brother. Like like I said, now you're backed into Darnold, maybe Goff, right? Maybe the Goff thing happens. But if you take right, the AFC quarterback stuff is really interesting. I know in this instance you would be taking Hurts over him, but if you take Hurts over him every time, you are always going to have the Eagles, these huge Eagles bags, which is not something I'm all that interested in. And then, right, this whole like this AFC stuff, the AFC skill guys suck. The AFC quarterbacks are awesome. So it's like this weird counterbalance.
Well, it's also how the board plays out too. If you go Hurts, somebody's going Saquon after you. They're very likely to double tap and go into AJ Brown. Okay, so your next best Eagle is Devonta Smith, and then there's
only two guys left.
Gainwell's a fine toss in last rounder or whatever, but sure. But it really plays out poorly for you, because it just doesn't mathematically work very well.
Yeah. It's tough. The Eagles are just tough. The Ravens are really, you just saw, the Ravens are really easy to build. Like super duper easy. If the Eagles are very tough.
Because let's say you go Hurts, 3 goes Lamar, 4 goes Saquon. Well, now everybody for the 4, when they go Saquon, AJB, everyone to the left of them has a quarterback already. So they're just going to push Mahomes around the corner to themselves and build Philly, Kansas City.
Yep. 100%. It's a tricky, the drafts this year. I'm not saying that drafts every year aren't, right? We say this all the time. Like, this year feels different. But it's weird because like all the top picks for most of these best offenses, after we get past a certain, Jefferson or AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, somewhere in that region, right? We're taking guys who are probably not going to hit our lineup. And if they are, we're not advancing. We're taking a lot of guys really highly. And then, you have the quarterback issues there's like really, really good fantasy quarterbacks and really, really bad fantasy quarterbacks. It's kind of a bizarre scenario this year. So that's driving a lot of my decisions and why I don't really like the Eagles. Just personal gut bias. That's just me, my gal brain bias or whatever. But I'm not passing up on my X% of Hurts exposure. I'm just going to take it, and because it's hard. It's a difficult. The quarterback environment and the matchups are difficult, especially when we still don't have the bye. Right. Yeah. At least I know how to plan around the Chiefs. I don't know what to do with the Lions and the Vikings just yet. So when I get Hurts, it kind of alleviates that pain a little bit. Let's go ahead and pull up Drafters. We can hop in. Drafters did open. They had what they called the warm up, their $3 playoff best ball tournament. Now they have launched their $3 best ball championship. We just hopped in. We only need 3 more. If you have not signed up for Drafters yet, you can get 100% deposit bonus over there and rip a whole bunch of free playoff best ball drafts. If you deposit up to it, right? You deposit $100, they'll give you $100 on Drafters. We just filled, and it's a ton of fun, in my opinion, on Drafters. It's kind of this yet another unique format where it's full PPR. It doesn't have the bonuses like DraftKings does, but full PPR, and there's the tight end position, right? So we have 6 starters as opposed to the 5 on Underdog, and you must play a tight end, but it's cumulative scoring. So the whole tight end thing with cumulative scoring is a real mind fuck. It really will. It's difficult to build on Drafters, but also like a ton of fun. Especially we're going to be out of the 106 here, and all the pain points that we just discussed they exist out of the 106.
The 6 is really tough on Drafters.
So tough.
So the tight end thing. So one bit I'll say is on Drafters. If I build double bye, I don't necessarily need to fill a tight end in the Super Bowl. I probably want it, but there's circumstances where I'll leave blank spaces in the Super Bowl on Drafters.
Yeah.
I don't do that on the other two sites in the Super Bowl. So that's a big wrinkle for me.
Right. You're dead. You're stone dead on the other sites. I don't want to say that. Anything can happen, right? All the caveats. But you're pretty much, even we said the one year where there was 18, like those teams could still fill a lineup, and you should want to be the only team, right? Even if it's Noah Gray, even if it's Isaiah Likely, even if it's Dawson Knox, you should want to be the only team where like a 2-yard Dawson Knox catch wins you $500,000. Like you want that. On here, you want that too, but it's only 2 points over 4 contests as opposed to 2 points in that one contest. It's a big difference.
And that's what I'll say is so many people are coming over to drafters, and now you see them and they're bringing their Underdog and DraftKings mindset.
Yep.
Which is not the right thing for this format.
Yep. It's so different. So first round goes Allen, Lamar, Hurts as expected, Amon-Ra, Saquon, which gives us, you're doing a lot of Gibbs here, right?
So I definitely think we need Justin Jefferson.
I was gonna say, unless I'm taking, because I'm pulling
and then we could go into any of the AFC teams. They're all available.
I do a lot of
Gibbs.
I do a lot of Henry. I'd like James Cook here as well. We can do Gibbs. I'm open.
Let's go into Cook.
I like the James Cook thing. I like locking down running back here. Running back also is rough. Running back is rough. We didn't even get to that. Running back gets to, like, why was Aaron Jones like a must for us on the DraftKings team? It's because once you get past, right? I mean, really, it's just like Henry and James Cook is fine. But like once you get past Henry, Saquon, and Gibbs, it's like Kyron's okay, but are the Rams going to make a run? You know, Mixon's okay, but are the Texans going to make a run? Like it gets bad. So I really do like having that, especially I do a lot of exactly what we did here. Take JJ at the turn, and then take UC. I do it more frequently with Derrick Henry, but I mix and match him and James Cook, him and Derrick Henry, you know, him and whatever, some sort of pairing there, and obviously setting up the Vikings.
So that's exactly why I pushed us towards Cook, is because most people go Henry there. And
this combo is not very frequently owned. Yeah, I should have looked this up.
This format is going to reward us more for being different in the second round there.
100%. That's another great call, actually, to shout out. Is the whole uniqueness thing is powerful in all formats of play of best ball, in my opinion, but no more so than on drafters, where like you're competing against every single other team in this tournament. It's huge to have. So Aaron Jones comes back, but we do have Kelsey, Laporta, and Andrews. All the tight ends are available. Pacheco, Worthy, Kincaid, Addison. The world is your oyster, Bernie.
Yeah, I think you're right. Getting Jones locked in. Then one of those tight ends is tempting.
I know it is tempting. I never do it, but it's pretty tempting. Kelsey is kind of intriguing because the Bills that would be the conference championship. So we would be okay either way.
The only problem is if we build this Minnesota, Kansas City, then we got to get a third tight end problem potentially.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's kind of the problem with Laporta too.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't mind trying Kelsey though.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just try it, see what happens. Like you said, we'll figure out what it looks like at the end. But we don't need any more running backs, so that's something to consider, right? In terms of our later picks, needing maybe an extra tight end, needing the quarterback stuff, needing, you know, maybe some first round wide receivers. We have more flexibility now because we don't need any more running backs. We've set up. Obviously, Cook can play in the Super Bowl for a Bills Super Bowl, but also he can get us through, 3 games really in this build.
So let's toss Addison, Hawk, and Darnold into Oh, Addison goes.
Let me put Hawk on here and Darnold.
And the nice thing about it is you're seeing a significant dip in change in wide receiver pricing here.
Yes, right. Look at the Terry price compared to Terry, Pickens, Ladd. Look at the Evans, all the one-offs at Cup, all in a row. But right, they're a couple rounds more expensive on the other side, which is kind of interesting.
And that's where. Think about it. Oh, there, that guy went with the Hawk thing.
You mushed us, Charles. Charles said Hawk price on this is a steal as they take Hawkinson. But no, I agree. The Vikings prices even JJ, but the Vikings prices are crazy. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. They get no respect. No respect.
And that's where, with how we played this, we definitely want to get another tight end here. I'm not sold we need a Super Bowl tight end now. If we add Knox, that's fine.
Yeah, last round Knox is in play, but not mandatory.
Yeah. So I think we definitely just want to lock up Darnold with one of these two.
Yeah, I agree. So I think I have him at the top.
And then wide receiver.
Darnold, Nico, Keon. Then we do get into Amari. Do you want to wait till the next round to hammer some of these guys? We don't have any other Chiefs, which is okay. Those can be our punts. So we're definitely going to take Darnold. Do you want to go to? I don't even have Amari.
Oh,
stupid.
Okay. So
here's some options.
Why don't we? All right, you pick. I have very conflicted feelings here.
Me too. I really like.
Let's just get a wide receiver then.
I really like Nico overall, but Amari, and we can get an Amari. Let's do Nico because they can play multiple games. Amari is not that different to me from Keon. We could also just go to the Mac Hollins shit at the end if we want to. We also don't have to have a Bills wide receiver. Jalen Naylor could be available to this team, and fill the 2 Super Bowl wide receiver spots. And it could be, right, we could Knox or Ty Johnson or whatever. I think Nico is probably more important to this team given we only have one current first-round buy, one first-round player, and it's James Cook. Yeah.
And we could also just call Minnesota getting the 5 seed and making it all the way too.
That's true. That's true. I kind of like building for the bye because I think most of the teams that drafted before did not build for them to be the bye. So I'm not competing with them. They cook themselves. And then there's still enough teams that are not building for them to be the bye. And I think I can build better. I think I can build better Vikings bye teams, right? Especially double bye on drafters than our opponents can. That remains to be seen, by the way. That is an opinion. That is not a fact.
Well, it's a really tough game. So
yes, it is.
I'm very open to trying that out.
All right. So we're about to be back on the clock. We got 2 back-to-back picks, 3 wide receivers in the queue. I can look at the other positions if you want. Ladd goes. Damn.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, that's who I really wanted. But we do have Keon and Pickens in the queue. Those are the tight ends. Here's the quarterbacks. Love and Jaden Daniels and Stroud all still around.
Let's see Terry running back real quick.
Mixon and then Hunt for Pickens. Do you go Keon or do you go Pickens one off? I think I would take a Pickens one off and kind of punt off Keon again for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, we can take Keon, but I was just saying in terms of prioritizing those 2.
Yeah, because we have the Mac Hollins things that's not.
Now we're good round 1 at wide receiver. We're good. We have those 2 guys. We don't have a flex, but
yeah, I don't super love splitting the AFC this early.
Yeah.
So why don't we go into Kareem Hunt?
Okay.
Do you like that?
Yeah, because all the other guys are gone. He's the best Chief by far left.
So we're gonna build it Minnesota KC.
Minnesota, KC. I mean, Buffalo's still available. We're still available to Buffalo.
We definitely are, but they're
Naylor
getting off by
Hollins.
randos.
Yeah, Naylor, Hollins, Knox, Ty Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have JJ. So we would need a Bills wide receiver. Is the only issue. Well, we need, because we have Vikings. Darnold, JJ, Aaron Jones is our Vikings. So Naylor might be kind of necessary on this team, given the fact that we have Kelsey and Hunt and then Cook.
Yeah.
So we could do Naylor, Knox, quarterback, and just count on Nico and
think through that. Yeah. Nico and Pickens to get us through.
That gets us through. Naylor, so Knox would be our round 1 tight end is maybe the issue there. Do we just punt off the Bills Super Bowl? It's not that important.
I almost think Schultz is better.
I'm totally into Schultz. He's my preferred tight end on this team.
That keeps us with a Houston win, getting us a third wide receiver into the second round.
Yep.
Which will help with our flex spot as well.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely throw Naylor in there. And then we talked about another quarterback
Daniels and Love and Herbert all just got snapped up. So
okay, then we can just stack whatever comes back around.
It's probably going to be Stroud.
Yeah.
Do we want to take these two guys?
Yeah.
Okay. So now Super Bowl. So obviously we also have Houston Super Bowl now available to us. Not that we are expecting that or betting on that, but technically we now have that Houston.
Yeah. And if Mixon comes back to us, we can take him too and Stroud and just really lean in.
Oh no, where did he go? Where am I missing? Oh, over here.
Oh, okay.
To the 101. Allen. Yeah, pretty good pick for the 101. Only had Ty Johnson at running back up until that point. See, this is the team that we're building. This is why I like building these teams. It's like a fun mental exercise, but it's so hard live on the fly. Like, we got the tools, shit's lighting up on the screen, right? We're talking through it with two people, and you're still like, wait, does it need to be this guy? Does it? You're moving the puzzle pieces around. So a casual guy trying to build this while, taking a shit is probably not doing it great.
And I actually think this is the hardest format. But what we've done here is we're trying to basically layer all 4 rounds to have close, if to not full teams. And we do have a full team in the first round once we get a quarterback. We have close to a full team in the Super Bowl, but we're also playing it double bye. So I kind of even led with that of, hey, I don't think we need a full team in the Super Bowl. It could be great, but with this cumulative format, it's not mandatory like it is on the other 2 sites.
100%.
So
I think that's what we do. By the way, I just want to clarify that. I think we forego the Bills in this spot. Mac Hollins is gone even. It could be Curtis Samuel, but I'm not worried about Dawson Knox.
Yeah. So what do you want to do?
Well, we need a quarterback for sure.
We do.
That's after that. I don't have a great take here. No running back, I don't think. I mean, we could tack on another tight end, but I don't really want to do that.
No, I think it's highest just upside receiver running back we can find.
Yeah. Do you want Stroud? Since
I
think it's got to be. I think
it's just the pass catcher correlation. So
I'm just clicking some live bodies into the. Yeah. I'm not saying these are the guys I want, but it's bad. It's bad. I mean, Curtis Samuel might not even be the worst.
Yeah, let's go back to running back real quick.
B-Rob.
I think Warren might be here.
Oh, come on. One time. Yes, you're right. That's the play. Because we have Pickens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the play. He's the right play.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Run down the team super quickly before we get out of here. Goddamn, hour and a half. This is a Corinne and I episode. Darnold, CJ Stroud, because we started with Justin Jefferson and James Cook out of the 6-7. Again, the theme of this is we're trying some funky different builds and trying to build in unique ways that are, not necessarily exactly how everyone else is building, whether it has been a lot of double bye style teams, if we assume the Vikings do get the bye, but just trying to build a little bit of a different approach as opposed to being our robots of 4-2-2-2, right? Build your Super Bowl from the start, trying some different things like Saquon one-offs and James Cook with Justin Jefferson at the 6-7 spot. Come back, get Aaron Jones and Travis Kelce and actually start to set up. I like that one quite a bit. I'm happy we did that. Let's just say we were debating whether to do the Kelce thing. I'm happy that we did the Kelce thing because now we have set up the Minnesota KC Super Bowl, and the team's actually pretty good. Obviously, it needs Minnesota to go to the Super Bowl because our wide receivers are rough. Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, George Pickens, and Jalen Naylor. But we've bet on a Houston win here and ideally a Pittsburgh win here, and we get that, and we get Minnesota to the Super Bowl. It's got a shot, I think. Yeah. Travis Kelce and attached Dalton Schultz on. I did not mention the running backs: James Cook, Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, and Jalen Warren. So obviously we need some wins here from some of these teams, but that's just playoff best ball. It's thin at wide receiver, but it's got a path, right? It's got a story, and not going to be a lot of Minnesota, Kansas City double buys that can field a team this strong if it shakes out that way.
Yeah, and so we got the full Minnesota, Kansas City. But we also played, basically, we have Minnesota, Kansas City, Buffalo in the conference championships. We're only one piece off the Minnesota Buffalo Super Bowl.
And so, it's a tight end.
It's a tight end, so it's not the worst thing. Now, is Naylor probably carrying a little bit more weight than ideally we want him to?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But what are you going to do? Sometimes it just crumbles this way. But I think this really has the makings of how I want to build teams on drafters. One, I want to do things that are maybe reasonable but a little bit different. Like I was pulling up on my other screen here Tournament DB on our website for Spike Week, and Hackers has it set up, and you can look at the draft board and see what combinations have already been picked in the tournament.
Yep.
And that's where it's really cool that you can just plug in Justin Jefferson and you can see, hey, in this tournament, Derrick Henry goes with them 17% of the time and James Cook goes 11% of the time. So that's why I tilted you down to the James Cook 11. And there's just like a little cool things that we can be more thoughtful than our competition on drafters, because a lot of people aren't building for this model.
Yep.
We might airball. This team could definitely airball, but we're building in ways that others haven't gotten to yet. Like there's just so many teams that I see that are building like it's DraftKings or Underdog, and it's not.
And as you said, is this team a little thin in some certain spots? Sure. I think in a total dream world, removing how a draft played out, right? We sub out one of the running backs for a high upside wide receiver, even if it's a one-off, right? That would be the ideal. But that's how it goes. Like you can't. If I could cherry pick my perfect team every single time, this game would be fucking easy. But the point is that I'm drafting against 5 other people, and it is what it is. Kareem Hunt ended up being I think in an ideal world, it's just a wide receiver chief. Really is like if you put Hollywood in over Hunt or something, you're like, holy shit, this team is absolutely amazing. But it isn't, and it fills us out there. Like you said, we need Nico and Pickens in the first round, and there's going to be some conference, the conference finals where Jalen Naylor is going to be pretty important, most likely, right? Assuming that neither Houston or Pittsburgh get there, which is a different path. Like that exists. It's a non-zero. It's a non-zero path. But I love, like you said, looking at tournament DB, finding some of those kind of unique ways that not just people are starting, but get to like the 4th round. Things are still really funky in like the 4th, 5th round, where teams take a lot of the same players together in those rounds. It's only until later in the draft does it not become so kind of binary. And building for those scenarios, right, is just something I'm doing. Trying to do more than the field. Last thing, I wonder what percent, you said 17% of the time Henry is paired with JJ. I wonder how many of those are mine. I bet you I am.
Okay, so I will tell you this, though. I did pull this up, too, while we were talking. So just looking at our first 3 players, Jefferson, Cook, Kelsey. We are the 3rd team to do that in this tournament.
Jefferson, Cook, Kelsey. Those are only 3.
We are the 3rd person to do that.
See, that's what I want. I almost don't care who the player is, right? That's a slight exaggeration, right? When it's Keon Coleman or something, or Ray Davis, right? Like that matters. But when it's amongst the top X rounds, 5 or 6 rounds, I want that. That's my goal. Well, because if that's the nuts start, you're only competing with a couple of. You don't have to get everything else right because you've already hit the nuts and nobody else has it.
And that's 3 of the 4 top teams with the best Super Bowl odds, too.
Right. We didn't
it's not like we're doing anything crazy and stupid.
No, we didn't say the Bucks got to make the Super Bowl or whatever, right? Like that. I think that's where people fall into that trap, and that's kind of the point.
Uniqueness is the Bucks, but uniqueness can also be this.
That's exactly. It's the perfect thing to close on. The whole point of this entire show was not that this is the one way you have to draft, not that the answer is Saquon one-offs or what, right? We're not. I'm not. We haven't solved playoff best ball. I'm going to draft plenty of kind of what we would consider traditional teams, but how most people think about unique, playoff best ball teams is what you said. Like, well, what if the Bucks make the Super Bowl, right? We led with, what if the Bengals get in? What if, right? What if the Broncos upset the Bills? What if the Ravens get upset? What if, right? What if all that stuff happens is how people like, I'm going to draft a bunch of Bengals stacks and it's like, that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of ways to build wildly unique teams in this whole tournament. Those are, like you said, those are 3 players on 3 of the best teams with the best Super Bowl odds, and drafting them together is never done ever. It's like, that seems like a better way to build a unique team is to just pair my players together a little bit differently when I know everyone else is pairing them in a certain way. So I think the perfect bow on top of today's drafts. Go Vikings. This was very fitting. I thought you were going to force me into a lot more Lions than you did, because I'm team Vikings.
My whole portfolio is just Lions teams, so it's nice to get a little bit of different.
You were supposed to come on and do the Lions because all I do is take the fucking Vikings all the time. Like, I got all this JJ and all this Darnold and everything. So, just before we go, I got to get the Lions fan pick. Who is going to win and who is going to get the 1 seed in the NFC?
I think Lions are going to win this week.
Win this week, and then when they play again in the second round, who wins the second one? The Lions again?
No, the Vikings.
So that would be good.
They squeaked by in the first game.
You're describing my dream.
Yeah, they squeaked by in the first matchup. I do think Ford Field will be absolutely nuts on Sunday night.
Oh yeah,
and that's a place that does have a little home field advantage when it gets super rowdy. But it's so hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. So, like, I basically view them as equals.
Yeah.
So yep. I want a shit ton of both of them. I am prioritizing both of them over the Eagles. I am prioritizing the Bucks over some of the other secondary teams. But the Vikings and the Lions, I have no problem building every single team with those 2.
Love it. We'll be back, or at least I will be back next week, probably Monday. Next week is playoff best ball week. We'll take a quick detour to do some recapping of 2024 regular season best ball next week as well, but we're obviously going to be fully in. Expect every single day we'll be having a show, so subscribe, right, like all that fun stuff, and join the Discord, because of course we send out notifications there as well for upcoming shows. Go Vikings this weekend. Sorry, Lions. I've come full circle around to, like, I think the ideal scenario for me is that the Vikings lose, but I just can't root. I can't root against my guys. So I'll lose a bunch of money, and the Vikings will get the bye. We will see you guys next week. Enjoy the football. Enjoy Week 18. Enjoy the drafts. And well, like I said, we'll see you guys on Monday. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? If you turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. we have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date. That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.